The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to K4Wins. I'm Tony Kurre, ESPN guy. I've been doing sports radio for 30, 40 years. Right below me, Keefer, executive director of Birmingham Racecourse Casino. To his left is guy Gregory, who's also been working on both sides of the ledger now for nearly 4 decades. Knows gambling like anybody else. And, of course, a man who's actually in the mecca of gambling. Man, we're in Sin City. We're talking Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Sun is where he resides out there in the beautiful parts of what are we mid-60s now in Las Vegas? Mid-60s and overnight lows in the 40s and 50s. That's the perfect kind of weather for Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's been beautiful this year. Yeah. So really nice. About mid-50s right now. But yeah, we're gonna get up to about 70 during the day. No complaints.
We were at 15 yesterday morning, and we're going to 62 tomorrow. So that's standard nice stuff and great flu weather for this area of town down here. So we're looking forward to that. We've got ourselves a little show here. Wanted to mention last night, Pittsburgh Steelers continued a streak. And you see these streaks and you're like, how did I not know that? They have won 23 Monday night games in a row. The Pittsburgh Steelers have. The last time they lost a game on Monday night, I had just moved here back in 1991. That's hard to believe. They looked fantastic last night. Aaron Rodgers looked wonderful last night. They get it done. We'll talk some pro stuff coming up here. And, of course, we've got all kinds of bowl action, not to mention the college football playoffs to get off into as well right now. How's everyone doing? Everyone doing good? Happy holidays to everybody. We're just about 9 days away from Christmas as we do our show here on this Tuesday. What's going on?
Hey, and also the Dolphins lost their 14th in a row with the starting temperature under.
Yeah, they have no interest in playing in that. I think it's funny you mentioned Rodgers. My highlight of Rodgers all night, they kept running the tush push with all kinds of other guys. He stands back like 10 yards like the boss of a chain gang. He doesn't even move the whole play.
I love it. Yeah, Troy Aikman was getting the kicks out of that. That was funny last night. They didn't have to. He's like, I'm not getting in the middle of that. If it works for 10, it'll work for 11.
He did signal touchdown one time, so he did actually contribute. But
and we saw a guy named Phillip Rivers who came out of retirement at the age
unbelievable.
And it starts making you wonder if we're going to start seeing some older other guys start coming out of retirement. How old is Romo? Is he 44 yet?
Who's that?
Romo. I'm just trying to think of some guys that I think.
Romo's almost 50. Tom Brady's still prime time. He's 44 or 45.
Yeah. He's got to be at least 45 because he
can't take the pay cut from his announcing gig.
He was 45, so he's probably 46, 47. Yeah, but I could question Phillip Rivers. I would think that he have enough money in the coffers that he could do whatever he wants whenever he wants to do it. But there's that thing, when they just miss playing the game, and that's why a lot of people think that Aaron Rodgers will probably be done this year. He's like, listen, I wanted to have a go at it. I wanted to make sure that my last year was a competitive year, and he'll certainly have that with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It looks like they'll probably win the division as of right now. But we'll see if Baltimore has something to say about that. And then, of course, a lot of people talk about Matthew Stafford perhaps having his last year, but he's having one of the best years ever had, possible MVP this year. So I don't know if that's a guy that would want to hang it up. I thought maybe he'd hang it up after they won the Super Bowl 3 years ago, but who am I to get into? All right, bowl season. Anything interesting about the Army-Navy game? We were watching the game. I thought it was fantastic. I thought I enjoyed that game a little bit. And now we got a bunch of other bowl games coming up with Old Dominion. I know you got a monster play on that case. Troy, Jacksonville State, Louisiana, Delaware. Some duds out, some weird games. By the way, I called Case up and asked him if he'd give me his straight-up plays on bowls. He said, you don't want any confidence. And I said, well, I needed some confidence because I needed to go 40 points down to 1. And because of the way it's set up, all of the big games, we don't know what the matchups are yet. So you don't know if you need to hold on to those mid-30 range point games because you don't know what the matchup is yet, or waste it. So I started wasting stuff. And, of course, I had a 32 on Prairie League.
Recorded Amy. I don't know what the line is on that.
No, they played like pure Prairie League. That's what I mean. Being up 21-0 and then having a chance to win the game at the end. I'm like, and I had a 32-pointer on that one, so I already lost that game. So I'm minus 32. But anyway, that's where you get nailed on those dud games. I hate that shit. It drives me crazy when I see a game like that. I'm thinking, no one's going to have 30 points in this game. I might as well go ahead and take it. And if they're up 21-0, I'm feeling good about it. And next thing you know, it gets dudded out. I'm like, whatever. All right, Case, what's going on in Las Vegas? How's things looking? What's going on in the season? I know it hadn't happened. Hadn't been a lot going on in the last just 2 or 3 days, but what's going on?
Well, sorry, I would have put 1 on that. I didn't know about the
Well, everyone did.
1 on that game.
Everyone did. I thought, and I thought,
I can't tell you any. I don't know. I pay attention to the top of the FCS a little bit, but those leagues, I have no idea. I mean, speaking of the FCS, I mean, hopefully the FBS playoffs are as good as they've been. I don't know how much you guys have been paying attention, but like the semifinals, one of the games is Villanova, Illinois State. Illinois State was a bigger underdog to number 1 seed North Dakota State than anyone against any team could be in the FBS. I think they closed a 28-point dog and they won outright.
Wow.
So it goes to show you crazy things can happen, especially on these one-offs. I know we all went through our teams that can win the championship. I was the only one that had more than like 4. It's more likely it's going to be one of those top 3 or 4 teams. But man, some crazy things can happen. I think the FCS playoffs have been a reminder of that.
And Villanova beat Tarleton State.
Yeah, and Villanova beat Tarleton. Yeah, Villanova, I think, is the 12 seed, and Illinois State's unranked. I have a good friend who's the best player in Illinois State history, so go Redbirds.
Yeah, in the smaller college Hall of Fame as well.
No, he's in just the normal college football Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Boomer.
Yeah.
That was the Tarleton State that gave Army all they wanted at the beginning of the season this year. When you were talking about that right off the bat, saying, "Look out for this Tarleton." I think they are a 6-point dog in that game. Everyone's talking about what's this Tarleton State game all about? Why is Army only favored by 6 points in this ball game? We saw why.
Case went 2-0 on Saturday because he had Army.
He did. That was that was a great pick.
Yep.
There you go. I went against. I know that. Kai, I know you loved Arizona. Of course, you'll always tell me you love something after the game's over, which you did again on Saturday night. You did say the number.
Told you when it came out.
No. This is what you do. You say I came with Arizona, but the numbers are pointing Alabama. That's what you do. You play both sides.
Alabama,
so you're not telling me, I said, which way should I go? And you're like, well, I love Arizona, but the numbers are playing Alabama. So your ass is covered either way. If Alabama wins, you go, I told you the numbers thing. No, that's what you do.
I know the guy you bet with. He told me to tell you to lose.
Exactly, and I did. So I went homer, and I'm sitting there watching that game and thinking, Bama's defense. But let's be honest. If you're playing a team that's number 1 and they only turn the ball over 4 times, you're going to get your ass handed to you by 20. And Arizona did that against that. That is one incredible basketball team. I haven't seen a team play that well in person in a long time. Arizona, I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah,
they're a 33-point favorite tonight against Abilene Christian.
Yeah,
really,
they're unbelievable. They're
The
unbelievable.
lineup for tonight is kind of like that week 10 in college football where you don't see anything. There's one good matchup, Tennessee and Louisville. Everybody else in the top 25 is at least a 15-point favorite, and most of them are 20 to 30.
Yeah. The good part of the schedule's over. Now let's get to conference play because these are the Christmas week polish off tomato can week.
Yeah, we got other things going on, man. We got some college football games to get into for sure.
Hey, Tony, I got to give the question real quick. Okay?
Yeah, go ahead. No.
The Tony Kurre useless fact, $100 if you get this right. Yes, I'm starting this bull crap. What is the lowest scoring game, without looking it up, Case and Tony, what is the lowest scoring game in Division I basketball history?
History?
You
could say give me $1 million. I'm not going to.
No, I vividly remember, without looking at my computer screen, a game when I was living in Cincinnati, Ohio, before the play clock, and it was a Cincinnati game, and it was like a 27-22 game or something like that. But that's the last thing I can remember that was really low scoring game. I want to say it was a Cincinnati game.
December 15th, 1973. Temple at Tennessee. It's 7-5 Tennessee with 11 minutes left to go in the first half. And Temple holds the ball without shooting the rest of the half. Neither team makes a shot from the floor in the second half. Tennessee makes 4 free throws. Temple makes 1. Final score 11-6.
11-6. That was a thriller.
And that's why they changed the rule for sure.
Yep.
That is useless for sure. All right, Alabama, Oklahoma. The line's sticking there about 1.5, 40.5. What's Las Vegas feeling about Alabama? I was talking to my son last night. I said, I've lived here for 37 years. Our radio station was the flagship station for 30 years. I sat on a billboard for 3 weeks for Alabama. There's no doubt that I have a ton of cultural bias for Alabama. I mentioned cultural bias because I've been around it. I try to look at a game and I try to go, okay, I don't feel levied or strained one way or another just because I've lived here, but obviously I do, and I don't realize the glasses are on. But something hit me last night that just made me really feel like Oklahoma has played really well against Alabama, just based off what I've seen. If I was doing a blind resume, I think Oklahoma's the better shot here, the better team between Alabama and Oklahoma. And I know everyone's wanting to play Alabama just because they've lost last 2 and there's no way they could lose 3 in a row. But tell me I'm crazy. Tell me the Sooners aren't going to win this football game.
Well, the sentiment definitely does seem in Alabama's favor. Even some places opened Oklahoma a small favorite now, are mostly Alabama -1.5 everywhere. And just anecdotally talking to people, seeing some of the betting splits, although I don't think they mean that much this far out, it does seem like Alabama's taking more of the money. It's just strange to me because usually I feel like it'd be the opposite of a team that struggled as much as they have down the stretch. And now you got the Kalen DeBoer rumors, which you guys probably know better than me, founded or unfounded. Usually that type of stuff seeps into the betting public's mind a little bit more. But it does seem like a strong split towards Alabama. I don't necessarily disagree. I just don't know what to do with this game at all. I know it's not the fun thing to say, not the sexy thing. I wish I had a play on every game. I have a play on a lot, but I just don't see myself getting involved here unless there's some huge movement. I do think Alabama at their best is a clearly better team, but I mean, I kind of Ty Simpson kind of checks all the boxes of something going on there. He looks hurt in these games. I saw some deep dive into some of his throwing metrics have just plummeted game after game. That makes you think he might be hurt, and there's rumors that way. So I don't know if this time off can help him, but it seems like he's dealing with something. So for me, this is an ultimate pass, but I think you're right on, and it does seem like the majority of people in the betting market and otherwise are on the Crimson Tide.
Kip, you're all over it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Simpson rumors, there's got to be there's a lot of smoke there, and there's a lot of proof in how he's played. The slide behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, a lot of things that point at, and, even some of the commentators have been saying lately in the games, Simpson has to run some to keep defenses honest. But if you do have a bad disc in your back or a back injury, your just sense of self-preservation is to try to avoid serious contact. And to me, that's kind of in looking at that possible explanation, that explains a lot of maybe some of the body language we've seen in recent games. So I think there's something to that, not to mention the fact that I don't know when's the last time they've taken like a true deep shot. He doesn't drop back. And I mean, they've got a home run hitter, of course, in Hollywood, who basically is useless now because they're running him crossing routes across the middle. They don't really even go for the home run ball. Bernard is a good deep threat. Horton, they've got the receivers, but they don't take downfield shots, which also tells me he's got a physical limitation. And the complete shocking inability to run the football. I don't know. Does anybody have an update on the Jam Miller status? Has he got any chance to play this week?
I have not heard that
yet. This morning said him and Riley were out, but I mean, that's not the Alabama official report that the SEC has to do, because they don't even I think they have to do their first report by tonight, since it's usually Wednesday, Friday, but since they're playing Friday, I think it's Tuesday, Thursday this week. That was everything I've seen listed, and then on the opt-out list, and then ESPN, and then the Alabama site. Right now, everything Alabama site has him as questionable. The other two have him as out.
Interesting. Yeah, I tried to do some digging yesterday as I was writing about the next set of games. It sounded like a true questionable. I would not be surprised at all if he played or didn't play.
Yeah, because he's a big key, not only in the fact that he's the one bona fide running back that they have. I think the other guys are all kind of works in progress. Riley was also coming on pretty good until he got hurt. But defenses are just selling out and just bringing the house. And if you can't hurt them, either the quarterback taking off and running or have a running back that they have to respect, the linebackers just abandon ship and come after the quarterback. And it's a real basic fundamental, but that's what's happening to them right now. And, Oklahoma's defense certainly can exploit whatever deficit that they have. On the other hand, we just saw this movie a couple of weeks ago, and let's face it, Alabama completely beat themselves in that game. A pick six, a long punt return, 2 other fumble turnovers. You can't win a defensive struggle if you're giving the other team the ball. I can't imagine Alabama's going to be that careless this time and have the turnovers they've had. So, I'm kind of like Case. I'm on the fence here. I think Alabama has better personnel, but Oklahoma's at home. So this is a really tough game to call.
Yeah, and there's something to remember, too. A lot of people are forgetting about this home field part of it. I had a couple people go like, where's that game at? Is the Peach Bowl? No. I said, no, it's a home. It's a home. It's Norman, Oklahoma. They're like, oh, that's right. They're playing home games. I'm like, yeah, that really plays a lot into it and should tell you something if the line's sitting there at 1.5. We've been talking about Alabama's run game since week 1. And it's the same thing every single week. And we've had a couple of times, we mentioned Jan Miller. I think he averaged 5.1 yards per carry against the Auburn Tigers. Looked good when they got up 17-0. Then we know how that ball game came back. And he was the first time we had a bright spot in about 6 or 7 weeks. And they just haven't. I don't know if it's the play calling. I don't think it's the personnel. You're talking about Alabama. I mean, you usually have 3 or 4 stables of 5-star guys ready to handle the football, right? You got the Ingrams, the Trent Richardsons, you got those guys. And so I don't know if it's the play calling. I don't know if it's the line play. I don't know if it's the rush offense. I don't know what it is. I really don't. I've never seen anything like it. For them to go minus 3 yards, and granted, Georgia played the game of their lives. I don't know if Oklahoma could play as stout as Oklahoma's or Georgia's defense played, but to go under 0 yards, obviously, is like Kai said, he rushed for more yards than Alabama did. I don't know what it is. Where are your players saying, Kai? Because I know that, a lot of people, I know which way you're leaning. And I know that, you're probably saying Oklahoma and Alabama's look better on paper. So you're going to play both sides. But what are your players saying?
Everybody's on Alabama, but I mean, we're in Alabama. Go figure. But if you look at it, we talked about it on the starting lineup Saturday last week. When Alabama and Oklahoma have played during the regular season, Oklahoma's won. When they get to postseason, Alabama's won. Now that, I don't know how far that goes back. That could be a Bear Bryant stat. But they've played 9, 10 times, whatever. And that's the way it's gone. And that's what I told Legend, when we were sitting there just going that way. But with Oklahoma coming back, getting the starting linebacker and defensive end, their best pass rusher back, and if Alabama has no shot at a running game, and if Theismann, is indeed hurt, which I'm doing the same thing, hearing a lot of that. It's amazing they were calling him Theismann all year long. In the last 3 or 4 games, Alabama fans have just sold out on this guy. And it's like, you knew something was wrong. I think Oklahoma's defense is as good as Georgia's, if not better. People may disagree with me. That's fine. So I really don't think they are going to be able to beat Oklahoma simply throwing the ball. And 1 or 2 mistakes could make this game. And I actually have started leaning more towards the total and going under, which, I hate betting unders.
Oklahoma 2-9 over-unders on their 11 games this year. 9 times they went under. And it's interesting enough, too, because normally in college football, I go back the last, say, 10 to 15 years, when a team has made it in somehow and no one thought they should be in, they usually lose. And that's what I'm thinking about Alabama right now, because everyone's crying about Notre Dame not getting in and Alabama keeping in. And that's when all the naysayers will come out and say, I told you so. I told you that Alabama should have made it in. And it usually plays that way. Now in college hoops, it plays just the opposite. When you have playing games and games like that on that Thursday night, those teams usually make small runs. And that makes, obviously, the committee or the 64-team committee actually look a little smarter. But, real interesting game. Also, the other SEC game going off a little early there, A&M and Miami. And I think this is really interesting because Kip, in case I know you both have Miami as a team that could possibly win a national title. And obviously, that's stepping out of line a little bit and going off on a limb because they're not right there in the top 5 or top 6 like everyone else is. But how do you feel about that line, Case, so far in Miami and A&M? And has anything changed for you at all as far as wanting to call that game?
I mean, I might be picking Miami to win the national championship if the committee had to put in Alabama and at least did the right thing and drop them a spot. I say the same thing every week. I just hate Miami's draw. And it really starts here. I think going to A&M is an extremely tough assignment. Yep. If they were going to Oklahoma, I mean, they'd be a bigger favorite than Alabama, and I would have no problem picking them. We've seen them take some money, and it makes sense to me. Just strictly from a numbers perspective, I think I made the game 3. It's settled 3. But even when it was touching 4, and I think it might have been teetering on 4.5, I don't know if it ever got there. That normally would be a bet for me, but I still just couldn't pull the trigger on Miami. I know I'm hung up on this, and people will say it's a lazy analysis, but I just so can't trust a Mario Cristobal team going to Kyle Field to take on a Mike Elko team. I said on Friday, I honestly think if we're drafting the rosters, if I had to be thrown in and coached a college football playoff team, I think Ohio State's the clear number 1 choice roster-wise. I honestly think Miami is probably the second best roster, but it's not like it's a huge it's a huge gap, and I think it's close enough at home. Just trusting the infrastructure around Texas A&M a little bit. It stinks at the 2 close games I really have no bet on, but I made it 3. It's 3, and even in my column, I think I ended up picking Texas A&M, but the hook looms large here. I think if it closes more than 3, I'd probably just swallow hard and go with the talent of Miami. But I think this is the toughest assignment you could have gotten in the first round, since obviously Oregon and Ole Miss, the at-large teams, weren't getting there. So I think it's a bad draw for Miami, and I think it might end prematurely, though. They have all the pieces, so if it all sinks in, that wouldn't shock me either.
The Hurricanes in college football this year, 3rd overall in ATS. They were 9-2 against the spread, man. They were a spread machine covering. They got it done. Miami did all year long. And, of course, a lot of it has to do with that former Georgia quarterback and Beck behind the realm to him. This would be kind of a nice play for him, wouldn't it, Kip, to obviously leave the Georgia Bulldogs and go to Miami and end up being the man down there on campus.
Well, I mean, Beck's been on the big stage his whole career, so this is not going to be new to him, and it better not be, because he's their chance to win this game. He's not a great leader. He's kind of a front runner, for lack of a better term. If things are going well, he plays to that pace. If there's a few mistakes early or some things go wrong, he can just completely fall apart. So he's an X factor in the game, but I think he's a big check mark for them coming into this, because I don't know if anybody is really paying attention to the fact that going to Kyle Field is always just a gigantic chore. In a playoff atmosphere, this is going to be insane on Saturday. I mean, these people are just completely driven wacko fans, and it's going to be so loud and so intimidating. And if they fell apart at the 35,000 seat SMU venue earlier this year, imagine the difference playing in front of 105,000 at Kyle Field that are going to be just overwhelming. So but A&M is just kind of a schizophrenic team to me. They have outings where they look great and everybody says, man, this team is a real contender. A lot of people were declaring them the best team in the country at points this year, but they've had games where they just haven't shown up. The Auburn win was really ugly earlier in the year. They didn't score very many points. The game at Texas was kind of predictable, them going on the road. But I really hearken back to the first half of the South Carolina game. Everybody says that's such a great comeback and what resilience and amazing accomplishment. But they got down to a team that was 3-7 at the time, that was the biggest underdog of the year in the SEC, 19.5 points. They trailed 30-3 at the half. How can that happen if this is such a great team? And I know everything went wrong, but A&M's a schizophrenic bunch. I don't know exactly how to predict what's going to happen. I think Miami, personnel-wise, certainly matches up with them, but this is by far the most intriguing game. The rest of the weekend, Oklahoma, Alabama is intriguing in kind of a morbid kind of a way. Who's going to win 10-9? But this game could be wide open, or it could be even a defensive game. It's hard to even forecast. I still kind of feel like Miami getting in gets their opportunity. I can't get away from the fact that I think somehow, some way, they're going to sneak away with a win on Saturday.
Yeah, A&M did have, of course, that big victory against Notre Dame, that high-scoring affair, 41-40. You mentioned that Auburn game, 16-10, was kind of strange. Of course, A&M's only loss was the Texas squad. The Longhorns, by the way, Arch Manning coming back for his next year, which is probably a good thing for that organization. I think a lot of Texas fans are. But I remember that South Carolina game thinking, okay, finally we're seeing what this team's really made of. And like you said, in South Carolina, that was the worst coaching, worst played football game I've ever seen. The second half by South Carolina. I couldn't believe Beaver kept his job after that game.
You were talking about the Temple, Tennessee game, Kai. Shane Beamer was aware of that. He tried to take the air out of the ball the whole second half of that game.
Yeah, no doubt. But
the big worry in that game to me is you got Texas A&M's offense coordinator going to K-State, their defense coordinator going to Kentucky, and how just what's going to happen with that coaching issue there, because I would have jumped on Texas A&M. I don't know why, because I agree. I think when you look at it, Miami's roster is probably stronger. I just love what Texas A&M has done up front defensively. And again, to exactly what Kip said, if one or two things go wrong against Carson Beck, he
falls apart.
He's not going to come from behind.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Yeah, that's true. I also think Miami has the best player on the field. I don't think Malachi Toney gets anywhere near enough attention and respect. This guy is the ultimate game breaker right now in college football, in my opinion.
Yeah, the other two big ball games, Tulane Ole Miss, we've already seen that picture once this year, and it was not even close. And James Madison, Oregon, with Dante Moore. Any thoughts on that game? They're both sitting there at 17 and 21, respectively, a half a point, give it or take. But any changes going on there? And by the way, you bring up a great point too, Kai, with the changing. We always look at the head coaches, and when the head coaches leave, having
these games are affected by that. Every one of them,
and having assistants leaving can have just as much of a direct effect on a football team as.
Case has Will Stein left Oregon for Kentucky now, or is he going to coach in this postseason?
I think they're both coaching. As they lost their DC too, is going to Cal. I think they're both coaching, but we kind of talked about on Friday. I mean, it's just a tough juggling act. I mean, it's you got to do both. Definitely take something away.
I mean, all these games are affected by, people don't realize that the James Madison coaches got his bags packed too. So it's kind of amazing. This is an extra dynamic, and you hardcore analysts, how much do you factor in all this coaching turmoil?
I think it's pretty huge. And if you look at it, if Tulane gets down early, knowing that Summerall and all their coaches are leaving, then how long does it take for those kids, and they're college kids, for them to say, screw it, they gave up anyway, and Summerall to start thinking about what's going on, in Gainesville. What's going to happen with Chesney if James Madison gets down to Oregon real quick? He's thinking about going to UCLA, and some of his players are like, are they going to be like, hey, coach, I'm playing hard, take me with you in those situations? And if something goes wrong with Oregon, which I don't think it will against James Madison, but Stein and Lupoy, the offensive and defensive coordinators, when do they start thinking about something else?
Well, and in preparation, they're all thinking about something else. I mean, how much does that take away from your preparedness for your game? I'm sure they are all professionals and are trying to balance it all, but there's just only so many hours in the day. I just think I think this is really an intriguing part of all of this.
Well, Summerall's got to be thinking about who he's going to get at quarterback at Florida since Lagway's said he's leaving.
Yeah, and let me ask you this. We're talking about coaches, how many players already have deals and know they're playing potentially in their last game for the schools they're suiting up for this weekend? I think there's a large number that we don't even know about.
There's no doubt. Let's talk about some of the other games. We got the Crampton Bowl coming up. We got some interesting bowl games. I'm thinking about maybe going down to Montgomery. Just anytime I see a bowl game, I may go down there and go to the Crampton Bowl. I love that. It's a nice venue down there, actually. It's kind of small.
Yeah, they renovated it.
It's actually kind of nice. It's actually kind of nice. But it's perfect. It's perfectly called the Crampton Bowl.
And who's playing? Who's playing in the Crampton Bowl?
A couple of teams that have played each other already. I think a couple of times. We got more this year. I think we got more replays, more teams that have played each other again than we've ever seen. It's almost playing like pro ball. But anything, Case, jumping out to you? I know you've loved that Old Dominion South Florida line. I did in my confidence bowl take Old Dominion quite a bit, despite the fact that it's only about a 3-point favorite. But anything that's striking out to you that's a little different about some of those other bowl games coming up before some of the big dogs hit before this weekend?
Coming up, I mean, yeah. Hopefully you listen Friday. I said Old Dominion. The line's basically still the same. I mean, I bet it when it was 6.5 or 7. I can't remember what I got. I don't have it in front of me. It looks like there was a 7.5. I definitely didn't get the 7.5. I just thought so many guys are going to opt out for South Florida, so I love that one. I would still lean that way at 3, but a big move now. And I also was on Jacksonville State +3. That's crashed all the way to pick 'em now. It looks like even Jacksonville State's a favorite someplace. That might be going too far. If that gets to like 3 the other side, I'd be tempted to play some back on Troy. That's tonight's game. So yeah, pretty poor slate before the college football playoff games. I guess the only other one I bet other than those two, well, it looks like Western Michigan just touched 3 against Kennesaw State, and I actually think one of the better bowl games, the MAC champion against the Conference USA champion. Usually the MAC is like just automatic bet against in bowl seasons. They do terrible, but I really think Conference USA was even worse this year. We'll see. We get to test the theory right away, see how they do in these games. But I'm looking to take shots against the Conference USA. Now that it's touched 3, I haven't bet it yet, but I'm pretty tempted by Western Michigan -3. It might be a favorite kind of day for me that day because also the whole market, a huge move towards Memphis starting last night into this morning. NC State now only a 4.5-point favorite in the Gasparilla Bowl. I'm always a little bit worried about adverse selection in here. If someone knows something I don't, and some NC State players have opted out. As of last night, I was digging and digging. I didn't find anything. It seemed like NC State, as of now, looks like they're going to be at full strength. And if that's true, or if they're even close, I don't see how there's all this money on Memphis when a bunch of their coaching staff is going to be gone. They really slid down during the end of the season anyway. Again, I don't know who's going to be coaching. They've already had some players opt out. Seems to me like NC State should be the stronger side here. So I bet NC State -4.5 last night. I still lean that way. Maybe tread lightly just because bowl betting at this point is so much an informational game. And whenever you see these big moves, it's possible someone has information you don't. But I'm just going to go with it for now. And, there's also, it could be the other side is that it's a head fake and someone's trying to set it up to win limits raise. They can bet even more on NC State. So I'm hoping in this case that's what it is. But I couldn't I couldn't wait anymore. I took NC State -4.5 in that.
NC State's missing 3 defensive starters. Their starting tight end and their running back Smothers.
Yeah, they've already been hurt though, right? They didn't finish the year.
Correct.
So
that's literally all that's listed for them.
Any futures bets out there based on obviously the James Madison and Tulane games? Basically, they're not going to win these games, right? So, do we have any futures bets already coming up for perhaps Ole Miss's next game and Oregon's next matchup?
I'll have to see if any lines are up. I did hear there were some round 2 lines up. I mean, futures wise, it's the same for me. I hate just repeating myself Friday, but I haven't made any bets. I probably should just look at the rest of my portfolio as a sunk cost because I don't think any of the teams I have are winning it, although I have a bunch of teams playing this first weekend at huge prices. I think I have like 4 teams at 50 to 1 or better, but I don't love any of them. I mean, if I was making a futures bet right now, I think the clear choice would be Georgia at 6 to 1. I just don't think there's that big of a gap right now. As much as the betting market is making it between Indiana and Ohio State, and I think they got the better path. I mean, I'm shocked to be saying this. I was pretty low on Georgia at the beginning of the year, but I think they've gotten a lot better. And I keep staring at that 6 to 1. I don't think I'm ultimately going to get there because I don't know. I do think there is a gap in quality. I just don't think that the gap is that big to where you've got 2 teams at 2 to 3 to 1. And they're both going to have much tougher games, I think, in the second round than Georgia is. So Georgia would be my pick from a futures perspective, even though I haven't bet it myself. And I'll try to see if there's any prospective quarterfinal lines. They're not popping up immediately, but I could have sworn I heard someone say they were up yesterday.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something going up there, and I would think maybe not in Vegas, but maybe some of these offshore lines. There probably some games you could probably take a look at just to get an idea of what we're probably looking at, because I always love to see those things too. It's pretty amazing stuff. All right, so any other games you guys are looking at in college? We'll get some pro action to get into. Obviously, get into some hoops and stuff like that.
Well, I want to circle back to something you just said a minute ago about Tulane. Do you guys think Tulane has no chance against Ole Miss? Because I sure am impressed with how they played their last couple games. That North Texas team team on paper and in accomplishment was a dominant force, and they just beat them like a drum. I know that everything's up in the air at Tulane, but at Ole Miss, it's not up in the air; it's upside down. It's the most dysfunctional situation of a team coming in with a pretty high seed in the history of a playoff scenario. I don't think Tulane will win the game, but I don't completely write off their chances because Ole Miss may be the ultimate sunken ship now. I really don't know what to expect, and I don't think Ole Miss's defense is anywhere near the quality of a championship team. I'm just kind of intrigued with this. I definitely think Tulane plus the points is a good play here, but I'm not going to be stunned if Tulane pulls the massive upset.
What would they lose by 25 in the regular season? Correct?
Yeah, 46 or more, 45 to 10.
Yeah, so I think that's one reason why a lot of people aren't giving Tulane a snowball chance in hell. They only
scored 10, and they weren't playing
the defense. To your point. But I want to back off this a little bit, and I totally get where you're coming from with the Ole Miss and obviously the change at the top. But sometimes we've seen teams play incredibly resilient when they've lost their coaches. Sometimes they can't even contain themselves, and I can't put my finger on a game specifically, so don't ask me to. But we have seen a lot of coaches change right before ball games, and teams come out and just play lights out, or they played for a coach as an interim coach, and perhaps wants that job. We've seen it at West Virginia. We've seen that at several Cincinnati a couple of years ago. So maybe that's a situation where you want to find out what this team's all about. If it's all about me, you may be right. Ole Miss may fold up like a cheap tent, but they have to realize, hey, listen, they've been in a position now where they haven't been 1962 since they won a national title. These players got to realize this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you. Despite the fact your boss may be gone, man, you got to get out there and play, right? And maybe they put up their best effort against Tulane. I don't know.
They either wake up or they don't. I mean, it's simple. In my opinion, with Ole Miss, they are either going to come out really flat because their coach is gone and because they just expect to win, and that is the only chance Tulane has to keep it close. Or
personnel-wise, it's a mismatch, but they also have it. They also have a coach that they've hired who's a moron. Pete Golding is not up for the task. I can tell you after watching the Alabama defense be dysfunctional under his watch. Pete Golding, head coach of Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin is allowing Charlie Weiss Jr. to come call plays, but how much is his heart going to be in that? I don't know. The whole situation is so bizarre.
He's there to recruit Chambliss if they don't get Carr from Michigan.
Chambliss has to win his hardship case, which is a toss-up. We'll see.
This is the only bet I made in the playoffs. Was I took Tulane plus 17. Now you can get 17.5, so it's not necessarily a good bet. I mean, I don't think anything you guys said is invalid or wrong. It's all within the realm of possibilities. You have to make a bet like that knowing you could get blown out. It could be a repeat of week 4 or 5 or whatever that is. But I just go back to that game. I think it was one of my bigger bets that week. I bet Tulane plus 13. I loved it. Obviously didn't work out, but I think it closed like 10.5 or 11. There's all this interest to bet Tulane back then. Yeah, they had one bad game where everything went terribly. We saw that again later in the year with UTSA. But since that game, Tulane has gotten undeniably better. They've had this freshman running back, Jamari McClure, who's totally broken out. Ole Miss's rush defense is nothing spectacular. I didn't think Ole Miss, for a lack of a better words, peaked in the middle of the season. I don't think they've been as good down the stretch. I know one of the shows last week I was saying, I think we got to take a step back and look at all these grim struggles they were in with these teams that aren't that good. I look at Tulane has gotten better to me. I would upgrade from middle of the season, and I would downgrade Ole Miss from the beginning of the season, and you're getting almost a touchdown difference from what the line closed. So I think just on principle, I had to bet Tulane here. I'm fully prepared to be dead wrong. Maybe they lose by 40. Then I'll be excited because I have Ole Miss at 80-1 to win the title. Maybe they have a chance. I doubt it. But I just do not see how you could lay the points with Ole Miss.
I will say this. I agree with you. The fact that I think Tulane, I think they've covered 3 of their last 5 overall. I think they're 6-6 against the spread. But I mean, defensively speaking, what they did against North Texas, I thought was really, really good. Obviously, they played Charlotte, I think, the week before, and they gave up a goose egg. But it's Charlotte. Charlotte's one of the worst football teams. But defensively speaking, they did. You look at their last 5 or 6 ball games, they were playing a lot better on that side of the ball. I think a lot of people were looking at that 56.5 too. And originally, I looked at that game. I thought, wow, that looks like an easy over to me. But the way Tulane's playing defense right now, I don't expect them to give up a 40 ball. against Ole Miss in this bowl game, particularly since they've seen them before, regardless of whether Summerall is leaving or not. I do expect them to play better, so we'll see what happens. Hey, another killer NFL weekend. We got 3 more weeks coming up. We got a pair of 11-3 games going on there with the Rams in Seattle. Bears, Packers, always huge. The Jaguars are getting super hot. They're not surprising anybody anymore. They're playing the Broncos. Steelers, the Lions, and I can't believe it. I was talking to my son again last night. The Bengals finally gave it up. I loved the Bengals +3 this past weekend. Thank God I didn't wake up in time to my nap to play it because they put the goose egg up and lost 24-0. They're done. They threw the towel in. I think after Joe said he wasn't having fun anymore, everyone decided they weren't going to have fun either. That was one of the worst games I've ever seen them play. And here's a Cincinnati Bengals squad that starts the season 2-0. And probably 9 wins is going to win the division, and they can't get it done. It just breaks my heart. Anyway, that being said, good for Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. It looks like it's their division to win. Baltimore certainly in the match, but that Steelers-Lions game. And there's the Lions, too. A lot of people calling me earlier in the season saying, what's the Lions line? I think he actually called Case. What was the Lions to win the Super Bowl? Everyone was loving on the Lions, and right now they're playing. They're actually in the hunt. They're not even in the playoffs right now. So some interesting ball games. What jumps out you guys?
The Lions, I still am not as down on, I think, as most people. I don't have the metrics in front of me. They have to play the toughest schedule in the NFL. It's insane.
Every week they play somebody good. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's nuts. So I think this is actually maybe a good setup for them. I bet it at 6. It's already up to 7 this morning, hosting Pittsburgh. I think everyone's going to be high on Pittsburgh after what they did last night. But this is a different level of offense they're going up against now. The Lions – injuries are still a concern, especially defensively, but they've gotten a little bit healthier. So of the games you just mentioned, I like the Lions. And you saw the Rams. They were up I think they were up 10, 24-14. Then the Rams were just unstoppable from there. I mean, I was dead wrong on the Rams. I was down on this team coming into the year. Even, as recently as 2 weeks ago, I still wouldn't have had them number 1. I thought the Seahawks were a little better than them, but the Rams just can't stop. I think they're the clear favorite right now. Doesn't mean they're going to win. There's always things that can happen. They are kind of fragile. Devontae Adams, I think, is going to miss at least the rest of the regular season, who's been huge in the red zone for them. I know Puka's their offensive go-to guy more than Devontae, but Devontae has all these touchdowns. Seems like they can just throw it up to him in the red zone. He gets it. So that will hurt, but I think we've got a clear favorite now in the Rams. The other huge game you mentioned, Denver, Jacksonville. I've heard a lot of people say they feel like it's a little low. The line's a little low for Denver, and I agree too. I bet Denver -3 even money. That being said, I think, of course, they beat the Packers last week. That was the best game Bo Nix ever played. He looked unbelievable. They're kind of just like getting by, and he doesn't do much for the first 3 quarters most games, and then goes crazy in the fourth quarter. But that whole game was like the fourth quarter. However, I will say I wonder how that's going to translate going forward, as he was making such tight throws. It seemed like he got so much confidence. He was rolling the dice a little bit. I feel like there's going to be one game where that comes back and bites him. Maybe it's this week, because I'm really surprised this hasn't moved off 3. I thought Denver would be bigger than a 3-point favorite at home. Probably the biggest home field advantage in the NFL with the elevation. So I've heard everyone on Denver, and it scares me, but unfortunately I'm there as well. I've already bet Denver, but that stands out as a huge game. I'm for sure. And if Denver wins this one, they've basically locked up the number 1 seed, I think.
The Broncos only 6-8 against the spread, but you're right. Bo looked fantastic that ball game. Just so many great games. I don't remember having this many great games this late in the season with so much to play for.
The man who once got benched for TJ Finley. Yeah. That defines Auburn football right there. A legacy guy who had all the support in the world got benched at Auburn, and the rest is history.
No, there's no doubt. And I still can't figure that out. I mean, you had the prodigy there. Your old man played there. I mean, it was his job to do whatever he wanted with.
He was like his godson. Yeah.
It was his godson. I mean, it was so perfect for him to leave. And now to see what he's doing for the Broncos, good for him.
In case you give Will Stein a lot of that credit, I keep telling people this Kentucky hire, watch out, might be the jewel of the entire coaching carousel.
Yeah, I just think, honestly, and I know you guys are more SEC focused, but I really feel like he's did it again this year with Dante Moore, who I was so down on after UCLA. I did not think he looked great, and I just think I've been blown away by Dante Moore this year. I still think we talked about this on Friday. There's some areas where he can improve. I don't think his reading of defenses and stuff is the best right now, but as far as just pure talent and having the ability to make all the throws and thrive in those quick reads, I just thought Dante Moore's been a totally different guy than I expected this season. And yeah, both those guys are Will Stein. I wish I was Will Stein's agent. I would have said, hang on one more year. We're going for a better job than Kentucky. But what can you do?
Yep.
By the way, did anyone see the end of the Kansas City game this past weekend? Patrick Mahomes obviously went down, and it looks like he's going to be out for the entire offseason. They're saying he'll be ready by 2026. They're still looking at that injury. The announcers made something of a little bit of a jest, and I thought it was interesting that the offensive and defensive linemen looked like they had a lot of pressure taken off their shoulders at the end of the ballgame, like they were actually enjoying themselves. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like the stress and the pressure of having to play competitive football at a playoff level for 10 straight years. Finally, you can forget about that. And hey, listen, we had nothing to play for. Let's go have a good time. I don't think that's how NFL.
No, that's ridiculous.
Football. That's the most dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. I get it. Now at least, you got 3 more games. You got nothing to play for. And I guess, Aldo Gregory used to tell these great stories. Forrest Gregg. You remember Forrest Gregg was a Cincinnati Bengals coach?
Yep.
Well, he was actually coaching the Green Bay Packers. And Forrest Gregg one time before a game, I think the Packers were like 2-14 or something going to the last game. And Al said it was nothing for players to have U-Hauls backed up to the locker rooms during the football game, and the families of the players be moving their shit out of the locker rooms during the game because they were going to be playing. And Forrest Gregg came out and said, I want every one of those effing trucks out of here. Your ass is mine for the next 60 minutes. I want to see everyone out there playing. Don't worry about what you're moving. And he just rubbed their ass. But he's like, your ass ain't moving shit until you're done playing football for me. I don't care if you win 2 games all year long. But yeah, this is the first time in a decade the Kansas City Chiefs don't have to worry about the next round. They can spend time with their families. Now they've got some vacation time they can do. They don't have to worry about being on the road in January and February. But what's your thoughts on what we've seen with one of the most incredible dynasties we've ever seen in any sport?
I mean, I'll speak up. I don't think that's going to enhance their I don't think they're going to go out and have fun now. This is a team that is got the pedigree of always being the major factor, the favorite. People were still saying even 3 weeks ago that the Chiefs are still, they're going to make their run. You watch, this is coming. This is a case predicted last year. The Chiefs dynasty was going to start to crumble, and now it completely has. I think this team's going to mail it in the rest of the way. I don't think they're going to go out and have fun because the pressure's off. I don't think they have anything to play for, and a team with this kind of background and this kind of pedigree, I think they're going to mail it in the rest of the way.
Well, I mean, it's amazing because Kansas City's been there in that predicament, and I'll bet you people are still betting on Kansas City, even with Patrick Mahomes out. And you could tell too. And I hated it because I hate Kansas City. I hate the whole. Do you want to rock? Whatever Travis Kelce used to do in the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, I heard that shit so much. It drove me crazy. Whenever Kansas City beat Cincinnati 1 every 3 times, they would just drub it in our face. But the fact that Kelce, it may be his last season, and of course his quarterback now gone for the rest of the season, that certainly is somewhat bittersweet for that football program. But it will be interesting to see what happens. What does Andy Reid do after all this is said and done? Patrick Mahomes obviously has got a long way to go in his career, so he's got some time. Do they retool him, imagining they have good ownership up there in Kansas City? So they'll probably be ready to go by next year, won't they, Case?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if it's going to be right away. They're going to get back to the top of the NFL. I don't think they'll come in as the favorite next year or anything, but probably still the favorite in the AFC West. And hopefully you listen to our show in the summer because I did bet a lot of futures-wise anti-Kansas City. I had Kansas City not to win the AFC West. I had the Broncos to win the AFC West, which should look pretty good, although if they slip up like one time here, the Chargers for some reason never lose either. Although the Chargers are just a complete mash unit. They're as beaten up as the Chiefs. It's pretty incredible what they've done this year, to be honest. I think I think Harbaugh somehow is underrated. He should be like in the Coach of the Year conversation. He won't be because he already set the expectations high. But the Chiefs' offensive line is in total shambles, have so many guys hurt. hurt, and you see what happens. They can't be competitive. The Chargers have even more guys hurt on their offensive line, and that's how they built their team, and they're still winning. So,
and we're back to that basic fundamental too of football. You got to run the football. Kareem Hunt's like 40 years old. He's their premier back. I mean, that was just a sure failure. They don't have any kind of running game anymore.
Yeah, so I will say, I mean, we've seen this, though. It was unlikely that it was going to be year after year they were going to make the Super Bowls, an unbelievable run. But I think in the middle of his career, Tom Brady went 9 years without being in a Super Bowl, too. People forget.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know if Mahomes' second act is going to be the same. He relies a lot more on his mobility, which we know goes a little bit with age. So, but I wouldn't count them out going forward. I wish I stuck with being anti-them all year because I've been betting them a lot now recently, including last week. I think I gave them out on the show. Obviously, they didn't get it done, but at least I have some futures positions to fall back on. So I did kind of see this coming from a macro perspective, but I honestly think that they're still better than their record, but they just a lot of things went against them this year.
Kansas City Chiefs 5-9 against the spread, by the way, this year.
Well, guys, speaking of the Chargers, they're at Dallas, who officially had the stake driven in their useless heart this past week by a Vikings team that had been leaking oil. That's a hard game to forecast, but the Chargers I know are a mash unit, but I think the Cowboys are also going to have very little interest in finishing the season with any kind of enthusiasm.
What do you think, Kai? Kai's been silent. I need some.
Really quiet, yeah.
I think we've mesmerized Kai.
Man, I'm just being honest. I have not looked at anything for the NFL. I've been so immersed yesterday and even today in the basketball things and trying to get some of these adjusted ratings from KenPom and looking through those numbers and trying to figure my numbers to set up where like Case does, and then looking at the football games we have. We got 6 games before we even get to NFL, except for Thursday, which I don't even count anymore. And so I haven't looked at anything, so I can't put anything in there.
Who's playing on Thursday?
To lose Micah Parsons and to lose Mahomes. I've got a buddy who has tickets to the Titans game this weekend. His kid is a Patrick Mahomes fan, Kansas City fan. They spent all that money to go up there the weekend before Christmas, and then this happens.
Hey, Kip, you got Rams Seahawks Thursday.
Rams Seahawks. Yeah. Well, that's going to be interesting. I think Seattle was looking ahead because they almost got tripped up by the Colts and Phillip Rivers. I like the Seahawks big time in that game. I think the Rams got beat up in that Lions game. Not only Devontae Adams, but their other good receiver got hurt at the end. I don't know what his status is. I've been expecting the Rams to have a little stumble for a while, and I think the Seahawks are going to come out guns blazing on Thursday.
By the way, both teams tied best against the spread in the National Football League this year. Both teams 10-4 against the spread. So both teams have been getting it done. Now they play each other on Thursday night. That's a hell of a matchup. The line right now 1.5.
Going to be really nasty weather too. Supposedly windy and rainy. We've already seen the total crash. I thought it crashed enough that 45 is kind of a key number. So I bet some over 45, but now it's all the way to 44. So clearly I made a bad bet there. I know Kai said he's not in the NFL world, but I'll give him some credit. The team he's stuck with through thick and thin. I mean, the Texans look unbelievable right now. I have Jaguars
They're playing great.
I'm kind of worried it's not going to get home because they had that terrible collapse against the Texans in the second game. I think they were up 3 scores at least, I think like midway through the fourth quarter and somehow lost. Now the Texans have the tiebreaker. I mean, the Texans aren't going to lose this week. They're hosting the Raiders, the Jaguars dogs at the Broncos. So I'm really hoping some way the Jaguars can survive. But this Texans defense, we have these aberration years every like 10 years or so. I know the old truism is defense wins championships, but the truth is offense has way more to do, especially with the Super Bowl. But there is like every 10 years, the defensive team comes up and makes a surprise run. The Broncos famously and Peyton Manning's last year. If there's a team like that this year, I feel like it could be the Texans because they're playing as well as anyone. They're doing just enough offensively, and they're like terrifying to watch defensively. It's like a throwback unit how vicious they are.
I think that came from, and we've been hearing that for years, probably all the way back from the Lombardi days, that the defenses win championships. That sounds like something that came from Dick Butkus or something like that. But for the most part, it does look like whenever we've seen matchups of a league's best defense playing a league's best offense, the defense normally gets the better of them. And maybe it's just because it's easier to make adjustments or defensive adjustments. I don't know what it is. I have yet to see even the year the Rams had the best team on turf or the super team on turf or whatever. They were up and down the football field. Whenever they played a decent defense, they just didn't know how to turn it over. Mike Martz couldn't figure out what to call against a great defense, but we'll see what happens. Should be interesting. All right. By the way, we have not gotten to the numbers real quick, Kai, and I know you got something you want to say, but what do our numbers look like past week? People are asking me.
We're like 20-10. Had a great day yesterday and Sunday. I think it was Sunday. All we posted was Kip's picks, and we went 3-1. And so
the blind squirrel getting an acorn syndrome.
But haven't posted a lot of hockey this week. But I wanted to get real quick just a clarification because if our listeners are as confused as I am from everybody's picks these next 6 bowl games before we kick off Friday. So with Troy and Jacksonville State, Troy's missing their number 1 running back. Not a whole lot. The Cure Bowl, ODU's missing their quarterback, who's also their leading rusher. South Florida obviously missing Byram and the coaches. The Ventures Bowl, Louisiana's missing their stud offensive tackle. Delaware, nothing major. And then the Xbox Bowl, Missouri State is missing their number 1 defensive lineman, number 1 D-back. Arkansas State is losing all of their starting tight ends. So
and they're not any good anyway.
I say that to say, who's everybody got? Troy or Jacksonville State? Case.
I hate how much it's moved, but I bet Jacksonville State at +3, so I'll stick with them.
Yeah.
I'll take Troy.
Yep.
Jacksonville State, clearly.
All right. So Old Dominion, South Florida.
Old Dominion.
ODU, I like their quarterback is gone, like you said, but the backup's been pretty good this year. He started a game and is even better runner. I just think South Florida is just really has very few players left.
Old Dominion's a hell of a trucking company too, by the way.
Yeah. I'll be a contrarian and say South Florida just to be a contrarian.
All right, UL Lafayette and Delaware.
And with that said, he's gone. you can contrary your ass somewhere.
All right, UL Lafayette, Delaware, Case.
I haven't bet this one, but I guess I would just take the points and say Delaware as long as it's 3 or more, but I'm probably not going to bet it.
Only because Joe Flacco was a blue hen with Delaware, and my brother lives in Delaware, a little suburb of Columbus. I'm going Delaware.
Case?
I said Delaware, if I had to.
All right, Missouri State, Arkansas State.
Arkansas State.
Arkansas State, I guess. This got to +2.5, and I was waiting for the 3. Obviously, the 3 never came. Now, Arkansas State's flipped to the favorite with all the anti-Missouri State news. Both these teams are terrible. This is the worst bowl. Don't watch this one, but I guess I'll go Arkansas State.
Hey, you got to watch it. It's going to be
watch
on.
It, hell yeah. Watch it. It's football,
man. State, Western Michigan.
I kind of talked about this earlier. Western Michigan. No, you don't. Well, I guess if you have 2 screens, you can watch it. But Rams Seahawks will be much better Thursday night than Red Wolves, whatever Missouri.
You have multiple screens, don't you? Tell me you have a room with multiple screens.
Well, yeah, but it's not going to be good football. Is my overall point.
Yeah.
All right, Kip. We didn't hear yours. Kennesaw State, Western Michigan.
Oh, can you guys still hear me? I thought you said I disappeared. Okay, I was just looking to see if I was still on. Kennesaw State and who? Western Michigan?
Western Michigan.
Oh, gosh. I'll take Kennesaw State. I'm impressed with what they've accomplished there in a short time.
What did you have, Tony?
I'll go Western Michigan.
All right, one more. Memphis, North Carolina State. I know Case is North Carolina State.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with him there. I think Memphis quit about a month ago.
I'm going to have to go AAC. I'll go Memphis just because I'm a homer.
All right, cool. That's all I wanted. Thanks.
Yeah,
Y'all gave me some good things to bet on.
That is about the most depressing list of bowl games I have ever heard.
Dude,
it is so repetitive.
It's better watching the Lifetime show.
Yeah, I guess, but it's really sad times. The Birmingham Bowl, I am just on the edge of my seat to see Appalachian State and Georgia Southern here at Protective Stadium. What sad times are these?
I do have to defend the Myrtle Beach Bowl. I mean, I know it's not you guys' favorite, but MAC champion versus Conference USA champion. I do like that they get those 2 together. So I think Kennesaw State, Western Michigan. You have to watch one of these is the one that'll actually be intriguing.
I'm going to
like quarterback from Kennesaw too, and a coach. Mac used to be at Tennessee and played.
Jerry Mack.
Yeah, and that program's only been division. They've only been Division I for 3 or 4 years. They've done remarkable things.
How about y'all meet at the house Wednesday night? We'll go down to the Cramden Bowl together. We'll all hang out for us. We'll go to the Cramden Bowl.
You don't even know who's playing.
Yeah, it's down in Montgomery, the Crandon Bowl there. It's the salute of arms, right? The salute of veterans, right? The salute of veterans.
Isn't that the game tonight? Isn't it Troy Jacksonville State?
It is. It's tonight. Yeah.
Oh, it's tonight. Oh,
yeah, it's tonight. I'll come pick you up right after the show.
Yeah.
By the way,
I've got a previous engagement. I'm sorry.
By the way, I just had a friend of mine. This should tell you something about Keefer. A friend of mine just texted me a few minutes ago. He's watching the show, and he said, "Who the hell is the Jack Nicholson looking dude that's right below you?" He said, "You look like Jack Nicholson."
I get that every day, 2 or 3 times a day. I don't understand. My bank account doesn't look anything like Jack Nicholson.
Damn, I was going to say that's not a bad. That's a compliment. I take Jack Nicholson. Give me a good Jack Nicholson line. Go, here's Johnny.
Well, I prefer when Tom Cruise goes, "Did you order the code red?" "You're damn right I did." There's my Jack Nicholson.
I love it. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We're up against it. We'll do it again on Friday. We're going to be knee deep in it Friday. We'll look at some more NFL action, more college hoops, NHL. You name it. We got all of it going on. K4 winners. Go for it. You can find us on our social media platforms. K4Wins.com is our website. 2 different things at K4Wins.com. And, of course, you can also go to Tony Curry Radio, TKR, get the TKR app, and go ahead and pull it up and watch our shows live every Tuesday and Friday morning at 10 o'clock. Second time. Look forward to it. It should be a great time. We appreciate you. Love you guys. Thank you.
See you guys.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.